page 100, Myth and Literature by M.T. Vasudevan Nair, found in Readings on Kerala, module 4, page 100. Literature has always been affected by history, geography, myths, and the provincial wisdom of the places of its origin. The influence of various regions in India could be observed in Ramayana and Mahabharata. Let us call it a pan-Indian influence. We have umpteen regional myths. Every community and every village have repertoires of their own myths and legends. How far is our literature affected by these regional mythologies? Since the give and take between the various Indian languages through translation hasn't amounted to a substantial practice, the former inquiry might not prove to be an easy one. So, see, most of our stories are centered around, lots of myths and the various every region in India, they've got their own myths. So, this we take stories, we convert them from the myths into our modern day life stories. The same way, we also have most of the pan-Indian myths would be generally from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. So this is what the first paragraph talks. So the Ramayana and Mahabharata would be a pan-Indian influence. At the same time, we also have regional myths. Every community, every village have repertoires of their own myths and legends. There are so many myths and legends. Let us see one of the myths in Kerala, and that is a very famous one. One of the books that is sold most in Kerala over several decades is Aidihya. So that's one of the most famous textbooks in Kerala that is sold, Aidihya. Okay, so this is an 8-volume compilation of regional legends. So whatever are the legends and myths associated with Kerala, this is in this particular book, Aidihya. And the genesis of Kerala itself is linked to a myth. So how was Kerala formed? That itself is a myth. The myth is like this. I'm sure that you know this person. Let's talk about the person. In order to absolve himself of the sins of committing Kshatriya murders, Parashuraman donated all his ancestral property to Kashyapa Muni. When the Muni reminded him that he doesn't have an inch of land as his own, Parashuraman hurled his axe into the sea, standing on Mount Gokarna. The sea retreated from where the axe had fallen, giving up that piece of land to Parashuraman, and this piece of land came to be known as Kerala. So you can, in the picture itself, you can see from when Kashyapa Muni told Parashuraman that he has no land of his own now. What do? Parashuraman just hurled his axe, it seems, from the top of Mount Gokarna, and the sea retreated. And that retreating is the land which came to be known as Kerala. Parashuraman is part of a pan-Indian mythology. So this mythology, it's a pan-Indian mythology. That means almost everyone in India knows about this myth. But this particular story is very regional. But at the same time, if you look into it, this is a very regional story because it concerns and it talks about the origin of Kerala. Parashuraman, thus he plays a central part in regional and pan-Indian mythologies. Some see this story as a depiction of Aryan invasion of Dravidian regions and deem Parashuraman as a major figure leading this invasion, whereas some accept this as history. Keralolpati, an important book on Kerala history, considers the story credible. As per this book, the societal structure, caste structure, temporal arrangements, customs and practices in Kerala are all mandated by Parashuraman. So a book called Keralolpati, in that particular book, they say that the book says that the society, the arrangements, the customs, and the practice. All these are actually mandated or dictated or have been put into practice because of Parashuraman. The myth has been the raw material for many poets in Kerala. Our famous Balamani Amma perceives the action of hurling away the axe as an epitome of sacrifice. So Balamani Amma, in her one of her writings, she has she has talked about this axe and the throwing of the axe, the hurling of the axe, and she says that this is a supreme sacrifice that he has made. When Kashyapa Muni said that he doesn't have any land, uh, he just threw his axe, and the gods gave him that land, or the sea receded so that it could be Kerala. So it's an epitome of sacrifice. How much sacrifice Lord Parashurama has done. This is according to Balamiyama. Vailopalli Sridhara Menon, another person, a pioneer in Malayalam modernist history, salutes the axe, as a tool that pierces the depths of forests to provide for an early migrant society. So Vailopalli Sridhara Menon was, perceived this axe in a different way. He mentioned that this axe actually created the land so that early migrant societies could move into Kerala. And even though Kerala is a coastal region and the sea has been a constant presence in its historical turnabouts. But Kerala, most of us know, for us, we've got a lot of sea. We've got about 500, 600 kilometers of sea. One whole side is the sea. And because of that, many of the myths are associated with the sea. We have seen some of those myths in the previous classes, 50 years of cinema. The same thing, we are going to have a different tone in this particular lesson also. So, even though Kerala is a coastal area and the sea has been a constant presence in its historical turnabouts, we have very few sea-related legends featuring in the realm of our fiction. So we have sea legends, but somehow the sea legends are less than the legends of the forest or legends of the land and things like that. Our sea has witnessed many struggles and battles. The Arabs, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French, the English have come to this nation through the coastal areas of Kerala. So see, all these people have somehow reached Kerala. Arabs, they first reached Kerala and they started trading with the Zamarins and the Kochi Maharaja and all that. Then after that, the story of the second story of the Malabar Manual, which you have as the first lesson. There you have the arrival of the Portuguese. You have the arrival of Vasco da Gama coming to Calicut, and then later on to Cochin, and then Kannur and Goa and such places. Then you have the Dutch, the people from the people from Denmark, Amsterdam, those places. They come down, and they also have certain areas in Cochin. Then you've got the French people who come in. Mahi is one of those French colonies. Now it is a union territory, and then you have the English coming in, and they had captured almost the whole of India. So many people have come to the shores of Kerala, and they have dominated using firepower, naval power, and then even with soldiers. So we don't have many legends related to the sea, but we have more legends related to the forests and to the land. Still, very rarely have our novelists written about the fights for dominion over the Arabian Sea. So not many people have written about the fights in the sea or legends regarding that. The sea is a major character in the popular novel Chemmi, written by Tagari Shivashankaran Pilla. Arayans, the fishing community of Alapura coast, adorn the sea as Kadalamma, the sea goddess. She is a maternal figure who looks after the men who life while their men are toiling in the sea. So this is the myth, the legend. That is, Kadalamma, the you say is the mother, maternal mother, or the goddess, or whatever it is. She looks after these men who are going out into the sea to catch fish, and provided their wives are taintless. That means the wives do not, go out with other men, or they should be faultless. F-A-U-L-T, faultless. So this is a legend that happens. So in case, suppose one of the wife faults, she makes a mistake, so she does something that is wrong, societally wrong, immediately that might reflect, or that can have a repercussion on the male, the person who's gone fishing. These are all myths, these are all legends, these are all stories that have been created, and we do not know whether they are 100% true or not, whatever it is. So the sea goddess punishes them by taking away the lives of their men. And Tagari wrote so in his novel. Many criticized him severely for upholding superstitions. So people started criticizing him. See, naturally, in the society, there will be differing opinions. Some of the people would believe this, some would not believe this. There will be lots of atheists who says there's nothing like this. So naturally, there was always a criticism and against this superstition. Another criticism raised was that his common theme for class struggle was forgotten, and he authored a love story. That the same way, in Kerala we have got this class struggle. Generally, the lower caste and the higher caste. So there is always a class struggle. There was always a class struggle in Kerala. So you forgot all that, and you just talked about the sea and its things. That is what some other people also started criticizing. So when the late C. Rajagopalachari wrote the review of the English translation of Chemin in Swarajya, he justified the superstition, saying, what harm could come out if the women of a remote locality continue being chaste, believing in an old legend? I don't think that the novelist has overemphasized an old legend. This novel gains its relevance by showing how nature can be a life giver and a life taker at the same time. The same sea which offers sustenance takes the lives of women, her husband, and her lover in the novel. So I think you've seen the movie. I don't know whether you've read the text, but in that particular text, or I think that it's the same as in the cinema, it takes the lives of the woman and her husband and her lover in the novel. So all these legends, this particular legend about the sea and the maternal mother Kadalamma looking after the people who are out at sea and taking care of them if they do not taint themselves at land, if the women on land do not taint themselves. All these things are portrayed in this particular movie, in this particular novel, Chimney. Myths and legends have never exerted visible influence on the early fiction of our language. Prominent Malayalam story writers began writing in their 30s and 40s. They were overtly or covertly associated with the political left of the state. So they were under the sway of the concept of class struggle, which left them with the duty of being realistic in their craft. The understanding that the lives of our ancient writers are inextricably linked to several myths and legends might pique our interest. There is a belief that Tunjat Ezhuthachan, a man honored as the father of Malayalam language, is the reincarnation of an ethereal spirit, Gandharvan. Even though he was born into a marginalized section of the society, he became well versed in Vedas and Upanishads and wrote the finest poetry. That somebody from the sidelines of the society has creativity and talent is rendered digestible by the Gandharva myth. There are also stories of supernatural interventions in the lives of poets such as Pundanam Nambudiri and Melpattur Narayana Bhattadiri. So, you see, who is the Gandharvan? So, Wikipedia defines a Gandharva as a member of a class of celestial beings whose males are divine performers, that is, they are musicians or singers, and while the females, their females are divine dancers. So Gandharva. So they are regarded to be as celestial demigods. They are not gods but demigods. Almost next to God, who serve as the musicians of the devas. So they are supposed to be musicians for the gods. So here also we have the belief that Tunjat Elutachan. Now you must understand that Tunjat Elutachan was born into a marginalized society. He was born into a lower caste. But then he is honored as a Gandharvan. He is honored as the father of the Malayalam language. So he's a reincarnation of the ethereal spirit. He's a reincarnation of Gandharvan. So he's like Gandharvan. And naturally, if he can, because of that myth, because a Gandharvan is associated to or is a demigod, Tunjat Elutachan, although he is from the lower caste, he is also cast into that frame. He is also thought of as a person who is among the gods, or who serves the devas. And because of that, although he is a lower caste, he was put on top. That is what they are saying. Even though he was born into a marginalized section of the society, he is Tunjat Elutachan. Tunjat Elutachan became well versed in Vedas and Upanishads and wrote the finest poetry. That somebody has, from the sidelines of the society, has creativity and talent, is rendered digestible by the Gandharva myth. So, if you just say that he is a person of lower caste, nobody would read his, or nobody would listen to him. But then, when they put him next to a god, demigod, as a Gandharva, then people started. So, the myth of the Gandharva is associated with a lower caste person, and that is a quality wherein people take it up and they read because of the popularity or because of the respect that people have for Gandharvas or for superstitions. So this is generally what happens in the present day also. If you take it in the modern context also, you can see this. You have a news that comes, let's say. Now this particular news, if it is on text, if it is just written in newspaper, not many of you would read it. But then there are people who make this into videos. Thus, you see the videos and thereby you understand more of it. And this is exactly why instead of making making the classes very dull and boring by just talking to you, that these pictures are also put in, because in case you don't want to see my face, you can at least have a glance at the picture, and there'll be a little bit of notes also, which would also aid you in studies. Now, this naturally can be popularized only with your comments and likes and such things. Okay. Now the next paragraph, we have, in the same paragraph, I'm sorry, page 102, the second paragraph. Our modern literators make use of regional folk tales in their fictional, and those legends in their hands acquire the status of parables and allegories. O.V. Vijayan, Kovilan, Punathil Kunyabdullah, N.P. Muhammad, M. Mugandan have successfully incorporated these into their works. So these people, O.V. Vijayan, Kovilan, Punathil Kunyabdullah, N.P. Muhammad, Emmugan, they have made use of regional folk tales in their fiction, and they have converted these legends, and these legends have now become they've acquired the status of parables and allegories. Now people are, quoting those allegories or those parables, and using it in the modern context. Now, the same thing in the next younger novelists like K.P. Ramanunni, and T.V. Kochubava go against the traditional concepts of novel writing by disrupting the linear storytelling and realistic portrayal. They attempt to recreate the folk tales for contemporary times. Now, these people, they go against the traditional concepts of novel writing, and they attempt to recreate the folk tales for contemporary times. So what they do is they take a little bit out of that, and then they create new stories for the modern times. So this would be slightly different from the other ones. For example, here I think you would need to know what a parable is. A parable is generally a small story that has a meaning. Now, I'll just tell you a biblical parable. I'm more familiar with biblical parables because I mean that's what that's what I was born into a Christian family, so I know a little bit about. I know more about parables in that tradition. So one of the parables, which is a very common parable, is that this talks about the time when Jesus Christ, the spiritual leader, he and his disciples are observing the people putting offering into a temple, into the Jewish synagogue or the church, let's say. So now he finds that rich people are putting in money, poor people are also putting in. Now they observe that a very, very old woman, a very poor woman, she's putting a coin into it. And then at that time, Jesus tells his disciples that, you see, that one coin which that lady, that woman, that poor woman is putting, she's putting almost all her savings into this. So she is giving out of her whole self. That is how much she has, the whole thing she is giving. Whereas the rich people, they're giving only a part of it. So this is a parable, and this is something that resonates in almost all our lives. What do we do? Let's say we see a poor person on the road, let's say. How much do we give him? We just give him a section or a small amount of what we have. Instead of we don't give him a major amount. The same way, let's say we go to a hotel. I think that will be even more relevant for all of us. Let's say we have a biryani or something, and our bill is, let's say, 1,000 rupees. But when it comes to the point of tipping the person, how much do we tip? What happens is we give them a very small tip. Many people, but some of us, it is generally, suppose you go to a 5-star hotel or a 4-star hotel, the general rule is that you must give 10%. So if your bill is 1,000 rupees, you must give 100 rupees. But then it itches our pocket. We give maybe only 40 rupees or 30 rupees or even 20 rupees. So basically, these are stories that have come from myths or legends or real lives, and that have been converted into stories that we use, or what you call parables or allegories. So this is such things have been promulgated or promoted by O.V. Vijayan, Kovilan, Punathil Kunyabdullah, N.P. Muhammad, M. Mugandan, and taking a little bit of the traditional concepts and then recreating these folk tales for the contemporary times have been done by K.P. Ramanunni and T.V. Kuchubava. Modernists, just finishing that modernist scientificity demand that we negate these myths and legends as the fantasies of an ancient pagan society. The pragmatism of history eschews myths and as fabrications, but the creative artist sees them as emanations of the as the emanations of the prototype psyche. In the exclamations and dream-like sequences of these myths and legends, he or she seeks the continuation of culture and civilization. These people are tasked with the rediscovery of the past to seamlessly blend it with the present. They tackle myths, legends, and folk tales, not as historical specificities, but as what they are, imaginary possibilities. So, generally, what people should do is they are supposed to take these myths and legends and folk tales, and they are, you need not take the whole thing in essence. You can take that and use it to maybe imagine certain or visualize certain parts in your way, and see to it that you also implement your lives in that particular way. For example, let's say there is a parable of let's say a father talks to the child and talks about a particular legend, and that legend is about how good the gods were. So then there you are supposed to take the good in that, and you are supposed to visualize the relationship between the father and the son, and how family bond can be something exceptional. So like this, things that have happened in the past, you can take some of them and then blend it with your present life and make them as best as possible. This is what M.T. Vasudevan Nair is talking about in this particular lesson, myth and literature.